All right, welcome to a special edition of News from the Roots. This afternoon we have our friend Robert Eidus, who's just come back from the Rainbow Gathering in Georgia.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit. What you went down there intending to stay for a few days, but decided couldn't do it.
Yeah. The gathering site had some minor problems. For me, with my leg, it just was a lot of walking.
So tell us where is it? Where?
Okay, so you're about 10 or 15 miles from Springer Mountain, the start of the AT Trail.
Oh, okay.
And the road is 28-1, which has the front gate or the main gate located where people drop off stuff, and then there are side roads that they're parking people, single file. Mm-hmm. However, they're making the logistics really hard on the gathering, and so you have to park real far away, and then there's certain roads that are used for parking, and then arbitrarily they close them and say, you know, even though people are coming out, nobody more can come in. And if they catch you come in and go into a parking space, they can give you a ticket. So they've been giving a lot of tickets out. And even though the gathering has been very chill, we saw a truck that would be a small delivery truck with the back end opened up, and the whole truck was filled with food, and all of that had to be carted in to the gathering, and that was mile and a half that they had to take all of this stuff, you know, watermelon by watermelon.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've been to several rainbow gatherings, mostly on the western part of the country, and they're all like that. Most of them are where you have to hike in a mile or a mile and a half to bring in supplies, people carrying teepee poles and everything else.
Yeah. There's usually a way to get close for, you know, big stuff like that, but yeah. They brought in a lot of stuff. We saw a lot of tents. Big areas. Of course, Calm was there with a very sophisticated medical scene for people that's, you know, beyond belief as far as the care you're getting there. One lady had a cut on her foot, and they gave her a foot bath and, you know, soaped it up and put all of these really a Band-Aid with all this tape on it. And,
well, let's orient our audience a little bit here about the Rainbow Gathering. Generally, thousands of people show up. As many as 20,000 people can show up at a Rainbow Gathering.
Yeah, I don't think in Georgia that's going to be the case.
So it's just the beginning. It usually centers around the 4th of July.
Yeah, tomorrow's the big day. And and that's why the food truck was there for tomorrow's meals tonight and tomorrow. We saw coconuts coming in for the kids' camp, big crates of coconuts.
But let's tell our audience a little bit about the history of what the Rainbow Gathering is.
Okay, so back with the Haight Ashbury Love Power Flower Children, Stephen Gaskins gave a lecture at Berkeley on finding this great piece of land, and he went out and found the place in Tennessee, came back to Berkeley, and this caravan of homemade vehicles, school buses were preferable, but internationals were used. And they created a little house structure that they traveled in caravan to Tennessee, to the farm. Okay. And at that point, because they were such a major part of this explosion in San Francisco at the time, that the people who were left, who didn't go to Gaskin's farm, said, so when Gaskin left, it was early in the spring, and they said, we're going to meet in a national park, and a number of rules, no money, barter only, the gathering is free, anybody can come, and so the first one was in Colorado, and the gathering is usually 7 days. Starts at the first when we got there, and it ends. And the middle is a day, an hour of silence on the 4th, where everybody's standing thinking about world peace, and that's broken up with a kids parade. Really, really nice, very, very sweet. And that's on the 4th, and then on the 7th day, there's a council to see where the next rainbow would be the next year in July. And this has been going on, and they've been going to, I guess they've been to every state. I don't
think they've been to every state.
Yeah, I don't know about Florida, but I know that they did go down to either Alabama, Mississippi, and now they've been in Georgia. South Carolina, right, has not had one. North Tennessee.
North Carolina has had one.
Yeah. And Tennessee has had one. Yeah, and then West Virginia in 1980.
Right, I remember
which
that.
was when I started in.
It wasn't 1980, though. It was maybe 1990.
No, well, it may have been the second one in 90.
Oh.
But the one that I went to, the one in Arizona in 79. And that's when I asked the council on the 7th day to bring it back into the Appalachians. And they chose the site as West Virginia for 1980. And so I felt kind of compelled to help out, and I met a guy named Patch Adams who was living at the Rocks. And he was part of the group that put this on, and I learned all about, the ways of dealing with the Forest Service and all of the controversies of, it being a gathering where there's no one person, and so sometimes they don't sign a document with the Park Service getting their permit, which I think is a problem. Number of gatherings did do that, and they allowed one person to put their telephone and address on the application. I think that was it. And I know I did it for the West Virginia one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody's like, oh, it's a big thing, they're going to track me down. Dude, they know who I am. It's not a problem tracking me down. So I said, yeah, sure. And that's after the 1980 Rainbow was when that was in for July 4th, 1st to the 7th in July. But I had in Arizona met Ram Dass personally at the gathering, and I met Jai and connected with him and wanted to bring Ram Dass into Asheville. So we had a date of 1982, and then when I got back to Asheville, I got a call from Jai, and he said, "Whoa, somebody had a gathering for Ram Dass in Asheville, but he split, and we would like to keep the date." So I was living in Raleigh, and that's so I did the gathering in Asheville at Thomas Wolfe. That was really, and Ram Dass came and does come to a lot of the gatherings.
I saw him and met him at in Oregon.
Yeah,
In near Roseburg, Oregon. That was a big gathering. And so that's the case. Sometimes the authorities cooperate, and sometimes they don't.
Well, in Georgia, they should have known that these dudes were going to play the game. Really unfair. There is, in my rumored group of people who supposedly are in the know, that there is a Rainbow federal group that budget like $1.5 million. This group comes around to every Rainbow gathering and boosts the local people there. And you can tell them because they're the ones with the assault rifles. They're the ones that pick people up like they did here and throw them down and handcuff them. There was it's typical at the swimming holes for them to hand out permits for nudity, and they usually get off, and it's a misdemeanor, and it's usually a ticket. And you pay the $15 or whatever, and you're off. But you have a misdemeanor on your file. Well, now they have a new game where they're saying that the people who are swimming nude, and there would be some adults, there would be some children, that these are sexual predators. Yeah. Handcuffing people, pulling them off. An older man handcuffed him when he's trying to get dressed. Those are the federal people. And you can tell when they are. There were a lot of people coming through the camps. They had U.S. Fish and Wildlife people. There were people who were part of the park system, and it was interesting. But they were all over the place. The county Mounties were, I've never seen so many county cars. Every county car was there.
So they were harassing people?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this isn't the first time we've encountered that. This happens. Some places it does, and some places it does. Some places they open up their arms and accept it, and other places they resist it. And
here they did do a very nice video on the Rainbow Gathering that they got press on and stuff. So there was some positive spin-off of this situation here in Georgia. But, as far as you're being absolutely correct, there are some people who understand the mentality of the Rainbow people bringing in money to, and that's why they tow the cars and they put the tickets out and everything. It becomes like income source for the local areas. And yet, sometimes, as their experience in Georgia, they're not very nice about welcoming the people. And, there are things that have been said there that they felt that the cop, the police, the people who they were talking to considered them to be terrorists. And, when you think in that mentality, then the fact that there was nobody who was armed, they had a totally peaceful gathering, to go to those lengths. So my recommendation as an elder coming into Rainbow gatherings is these guys go home at night. When you want to go into a gathering, you come in at night and you kind of just bring your stuff in, you camp down wherever you can, and you wait till it's daylight so you can come on in. It's difficult with all the people. If you have headlights, one of the things they like to get is anything hanging from the mirror. That's an offense usually. Oh God. Anything hanging from the mirror. So they get you on that. So if you try to single and the light on your car is not. So a lot of these Rainbow guys, the cars and women are not up to absolute standard, and they get them. They get them right and left, and then they get them for the nudity, and it is a major income stream for the county. Over
drug busts for marijuana and stuff.
Yeah. They were doing that. They were searching the cars when we were coming out. They had one young kid, two guys pulled over, young. When we came out, we saw they had a young lady pulled over, one car, and another state trooper had another guy pulled over, real young. They weren't messing with me. Just go on by. We just moved through the whole thing. It was like amazing how much we weren't influenced by them at all. But even on our side road where we were parked in an RV, they were playing games like they said that the RV camp, which is usually a half a mile from the main circle, or a mile from the main circle, they had 6 miles. So you couldn't walk from the RV camp to there. So that was not a good idea. And so there were some RVs parked where there were supposed to be only cars, and they got ticketed. But not only did they get ticketed, they instituted a policy of fining you by the day. So like $400 just to get your car out, and then so much per day. And if you're in the gathering, you don't know anything that's happening with your car. Boom, it's sad. Really sad how they took advantage of these young kids.
So it just sounds like they're harassing people.
Yeah,
well, that's
yeah.
a shame.
I would say that harassment
is
is
a reflection of the times we live in.
Again, yes.
The militarization of the police, and they look at everybody like terrorists, like we're all terrorists.
Yeah.
And they're the authorities and the thugs.
And especially if you're getting some people. A gathering that's, no money and anybody can come, and they used to come into the camp saying that they were looking for missing children, that runaways, and then lately in Tennessee, it was more of the and now I forgot exactly, my train of thought was missed there. But now they're dealing with people as sex offenders just because they're in a swimming hole that has young kids there, and boom, that's going to travel with these people for the rest of their lives.
If they're convicted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a whole other thing where they may not come back because they're going away to when they get the court date. And
well, we're living in a country that's more and more authoritarian.
Oh yeah,
and
you
that's
could see it
reflected in it.
Yeah, you could see it.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as what was really amazing is the cops took away their marijuana, but the camp was really chill. Everybody was sweet. Everybody was saying welcome home to anybody carrying, stuff in. If you needed anything, the care that is given at CALM and with Seven Song, beyond belief. I was on a plant walk with Mark in the afternoon, and
Mark who?
Mark Williams.
Oh, he was there. Okay.
And Robin Allison, and there were 40 people on that plant walk.
Wow. Which
they've gone even a little higher, but 40 people is a lot of people on a plant walk. And so it was an amazing little 2-day venture. There was one place that I got.
Most of the people are going to come today and tomorrow.
Well, we saw streams of cars coming in.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they're going to park.
You don't stop the rainbow gathering.
Yeah. No. With all that food, anybody coming and listening to me right now and coming tonight is going to have a feast. I can't tell you how many watermelons we saw. boxes of avocados, boxes of tomatoes, boxes of cantaloupes. I mean, just huge amount of food that was in this one truck. I mean, we said to each other, we said, I don't see how they're going to bring all that in one day. And I guess we went in around, because we were going to go to the plant walk at 10, and we came out around 2, and it was gone. In 4 hours, they emptied that truck.
That's amazing.
By hand, with little carts and stuff like that.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rainbow Gathering, it's like a tribe set up. All of a sudden, overnight, this tribe materializes in the woods, and it's got all the makings of a civilization. It's got kitchens everywhere. Each religion in the world is represented there, and they have their own kitchen.
Yeah.
And different communities, and different organizations and things. It's just an amazing gathering.
Yeah. Everybody is gathered around the kitchen.
Yeah.
The big ones were instant soup. Richard, I think he was in his 23rd year of doing this. Really had it down. Very, very cool way that they were cooking soup on this grade, these big pots. Very, very impressive kind of way to feed a lot of people. And then we were up with the plant people, and they had a rocket stove that they built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there were lots of things, and the other one was Katua, and I didn't really look at, but I was told it was a really nice kitchen also.
Oh, the Katua.
Very, very set up.
Okay.
And Katua, as it turns out, after the 1980 Rainbow Gathering, which had 3 women who were lured to camp on this person's site, all 3 women were raped and killed. And
By
local people, and they were on their way to the gathering. And because I was organizing it, I found out about it, and I decided that what we needed to do, and this guy Hank Greenberg Wade was there, was to have a solstice in North Carolina called Katua, and that solstice would caravan to wherever the so people would all be together to travel together.
And because for a long time in Katua, up at Sam's Knob,
right,
we used to hold a rainbow gathering, a statewide rainbow gathering
at the solstice. Yeah, that's the one that Hank and I started, and I brought my teepee from.
I thought Judith and David helped start that.
The David also came in because he was also in West Virginia. The David Reed and his brother also came in and helped out. So we had a lot of help, and there were a lot of people that in the very beginning that just came together there. David's wife, Judith Halleck, was very much instrumental in having that.
I remember we got here in '83.
Yeah.
And that was our introduction.
Yeah.
We went to.
Yeah. And then it turned into the blueberries in August.
Right, blueberries in August. And I've been to several rainbow gatherings. My favorite one was one in New Mexico, I think. That was an incredible rainbow gathering. I don't know how. Probably 20,000 people were there, and this absolutely beautiful landscape, and mountainous.
Mountains in the background. Big.
Were you at
big
that one in New Mexico?
They were all like that. In I was in the one in Arizona in '79.
And so
just like
my favorite moment of that was it was early in the morning, just shortly after sunrise.
Right.
And there was a thunderstorm on its way, and you could hear it. You know how it is there, and you could hear it coming for miles and miles. And somebody started chanting like a rain dance, like ah, and it caught on, and the entire camp was waking up to this chant and then joined in it. 20,000 people doing this, and the storm got closer. And as it got closer, you could feel this interaction between the sky and the 20,000 people that were chanting. And I swear the thunder was in unison with the chant.
Wow.
It was like, boom, and then it would go again, boom, and lightning and thunder, and this tremendous downpour took place in response to the chanting, and then the sky cleared, and this fantastic
rainbow.
double rainbow appeared in the sky.
Yeah.
It was just the most amazing thing.
I was at a gathering, the one in Arizona, where there was a storm coming in at it, and they did start to do drumming, and the clouds just split over the gathering.
Oh my God.
It was like this energy was there, and it couldn't penetrate it, and it split. And once it got past it, then the rain was behind us, and it hit a big, huge rainbow on it.
And so I've been to one in Roseburg, Oregon, one in New Mexico, one in Washington State, one in West Virginia, and one in North Carolina. And in every one of those 5 gatherings, there was a rainbow in the sky. and
amazing how it happens. Yeah. We had lots of good spirits with us on this trip. We felt real lucky to be able to be in the gathering, but to be in something that wasn't a tent, and that was a luxury to happen. And the other fact is, when you're inside the gathering, many times it's really hard at night with the drumming to sleep.
Well, that's true. You don't go there to sleep.
Yeah.
You don't go there to sleep.
But they always have great music. And
it's a fantastic mingling of traditions and just different people from different walks of life. And now, when the ones in the West, and I think maybe they came to West Virginia too, the Hopi Indians were involved. In fact, I met Grandfather David. Did you ever meet Grandfather David?
Yeah.
I don't think he's around anymore.
No.
But when he had to be carried in. He was 80-something years old.
Right.
In New Mexico, and he sat around at one point and told stories, and thousands of people were listening to him as he was talking.
Well, at one of those gatherings at Sab Knob, we brought down Amanita sequoia from the parking lot into. We were about halfway to the camp down below, and the camp came up to meet him, and we sat in.
Tell us
right
about
on the
Amanita
trail.
sequoia.
Amanita sequoia was one of the famous Cherokee medicine men who went to Hollywood and fell out of favor with the Eastern Band and the Western Band. And he sold some of the famous medicine that he did was he had a cure for baldness, and so they never kind of forgave him, but he finally moved back to the reservation, and there was a place that you might even remember that David Wheeler, just before he got together with Judith, he was taking care of Amanita sequoia.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's in Snowbird that they were the section of the reservation
Up where Thomas land was? Bill Dickerson, Tama?
No. Oh, Tama.
Yeah.
No, that was outside the reservation. This is inside the reservation. And his house I think Thomas is outside. But his house, Amanita Sequoias, was a trailer. And it wasn't his. And they let him stay and die there. And David took care of him. Amanita came to the Rainbow, and right after the Rainbow, he died, and Judith Halleck was taking care of an elder Cherokee person. He died. And that's how Judith and David, kind of combined housing situation, because David didn't have a house because it was Amanita Sequoias that he was living in.
So he moved in with Judith.
Yeah, he moved in with Judith, and he never moved out.
Then they moved up to Moses.
And then and then they moved up there. Yeah,
which is where I met them. That's where we first stayed.
Right. Yeah. So there are, I would say that there are some nice opportunities. It's about 4 hours from here to North Georgia. If I were advising anybody, I'd tell them.
Here it's only about an hour and a half.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. This is from Madison County. It was 4 hours, and I would just go in the middle of the night. Parking is going to be very, very difficult, no matter what they do. But if you come in the middle of the night, then you can go down some of these streets that they say you can't go down in the daytime and park when somebody's leaving.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people leaving. So it was interesting. It's a long walk. From the main gate to the circle is about 1.5 miles. So if you went on to Couture, it's almost 2 miles. And if you went up to where the plant green path was, it was like another 1/2 mile straight up, kind of thing, or 1/4 mile straight up.
So were any of the old crowd there? Was Garrett Beck there? Do you know if Garrett was there? No.
The one that was there that I saw used to do the Rainbow newsletter.
That was Garrett, wasn't it?
He was one. This other guy, I forgot his name now. I'll remember it. He was there, but there weren't a whole lot. There were more people in Tennessee who were elderly. One thing I saw was huge number of dogs. Which is not usually what you see in these things. The most amazing thing is that they were all so chill. There weren't really dog fights or anything like that. And the people were very much on it if they were barking. It was, that was an unusual scene, and the amount of police through the park was over the top, just way over the top. And they were being mean to people, putting them in jail when they really just needed to give them a ticket for misdemeanor.
That was probably an executive decision by somebody.
Yeah.
In Georgia.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, that may change in Georgia. There's a black woman who's running for governor right now, who is favored to win.
Wow.
And she's very progressive, and things are changing. It's just that, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
And right now we're in that darkness.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. I would tell you all that it would be, if you've never been to Rainbow, it would be a great experience to just go there for the silence with the kids thing, and then eat and leave again in the middle of the night, and you don't really even have to stay there. You just stay up the whole time, and then you're not going to be hassled by those people. And then as soon as the July 4th thing ends, they usually don't hassle you leaving. It's only coming. So the 5th and 6th should be pretty good. On the 7th, there'll be a mass exodus.
Well, yeah, who knows what's going to happen. That's
Yeah, yeah.
It's sad, it's always sad for me to hear when the authorities resisted instead of accepted and treat people in
Nicely.
such a disgraceful way.
Yeah. I mean, they had policies like if you left to go into town for any reason, you could take your parking space again. It's like crazy. You know? They put up rules that they never had before. And they closed roads that they should have let other people be in and park close. And they were just very, very mean people. Right?
Well, that's sad. But usually it has an impact on the community.
Yes.
That's positive. And, because despite, I saw the same thing happen during Woodstock.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden 500,000 people converged on this very conservative community in New York, know, and it transformed the community because all the bullshit that people, the propaganda that people heard about the dirty hippies and all, was dissipated when they actually met the people, and tasted the culture of love and community.
And I would say that those people who did not go and just watched the news, they got a very positive aspect of the rainbow.
Oh.
But if you went, and it seemed to me like they were trying to put out the message, we want you to have a horrible time here, don't ever come back.
Right. Which is not the first time that's happened.
Exactly, exactly. But the people who do go...
West Virginia was like that, at first anyway.
Yeah.
But after a while, the cops themselves began to understand these people aren't threatening anything.
Yeah, well, you see, it was a kind of interesting thing, because they paraded some of these higher-ups in U.S. Forest Service and in that forest, and they brought in professors, and they brought in people who weren't in uniform, they brought in cameras, and they brought in a lot of stuff, but on the fringe, they attacked. Mm. And if you got past the fringe, not really a big problem. If there was a cop coming down the street, everybody would know about it, and they'd tell you. I saw almost no nudity at all.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 or 6 people.
In West Virginia, there was a kitchen set up for making donuts for the cops.
Yeah.
They were handing out. The cops were standing there eating donuts. It was the funniest thing. They were all laughing about it. That's a big stereotype that the cops generally don't like. But
yeah.
But they made a donut kitchen for the cops, and that's what they tried to do. They tried to interact with the police in a positive manner, and just strike up conversations. And at first they resisted, I remember, but then, you can't help but understand after a while.
Yeah, I mean, and they had spokespeople going with all of these folks, and some of the better people who could, explain our situation as rainbow people to the authorities. But there was definitely a difference between those people inside that were trying to, at least do some research, but be friendly about the whole thing, and the people who were on the fringe, especially the federal forces that were just mean as could be, and the county mounties were just mean as could be.
Well,
but
it's a conservative Southern community. It's
for sure.
It's kind of what you would expect.
Well,
and that's the purpose of the Rainbow Gathering, is to bring the culture, to break that hardness and that harshness and that meanness, and bring light to dark communities.
Yeah, and I think eventually they will. I think, as I say, they got great TV coverage. They're bringing in the lawyers late, but they are, countering some of these military tactics that they did that is illegal. I mean, you
Well, sure it is.
for a person to get a misdemeanor for nudity to be handcuffed, that's not legal.
Well,
And you give them the ticket and the guy goes away. That's it. Even I remember some of those water holes where they'd give the ticket and then the people would just jump back in the water. But they still got the ticket and they still have to show up in court. Here they were just so insistent that the people put on their clothes that they did some bad things. And people saw it and then, you can't do that kind of stuff nowadays without somebody with a phone. Now, granted, you didn't get good service. And granted, you had to have Verizon. But there were also cameras there that...
well, your phone has a camera in it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They didn't get necessarily good service, but you probably could still use that.
Well, Robert, thanks for this update and the news from the Rainbow Gathering. Happy July 4th to everybody tomorrow.
Yes.
And to you. And thanks for coming by and enlightening us to what's going on in Georgia right now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you all.